What movie is so good but so depressing that you can't watch it again? I don't remember the name, but it's a robot that wants to be human. He earns his freedom from the people who bought him, and he draws detailed human organs that eventually are used to make prosthetics. He ends up marrying the granddaughter of the little kid he used to take care of when he was living with the family that bought him. He eventually does become human and dies. It's the saddest thing I have ever seen. I'm getting tears just reading this. Schindler's List. We had to watch it freshman year of high school as it was part of our study lesson at the time. I remember we had to have our parents sign a form so we could get permission to watch it. I had no idea how realistic that movie portrayed the Holocaust. I remember saying never again when it was over. Schindler's List. It's 3 hours long horror. But this horror really happened. It's about a man that had a successful factory in Nazi Germany when he hires Jews because they are cheaper to work in his factory. When he goes to a camp to pick them up, he sees the horrific things that happened there. He builds a new factory to hire 3,000 specifically chosen people to otherwise would die to work there on much better conditions than in the camps. He eventually saved over 3,000 lives. There is footage of people being burned and their ashes go with the wind to eventually rain down on the camp of the other Jews. All Quiet on the Western Front. The scene with the wounded soldier and the shell hole fucked me up. Also, so I had a sort of obsession with WW as a special interest with my autism when I was dropped because of the pandemic. I obsessively researched every aspect for a year. Then I watched a film called The Lost Battalion, and there was this one scene with an American soldier who sees a German wounded soldier who has some bread in his pocket. He reaches for the bread. The wounded German soldier cries and cries, not for his life, but mine brought. Don't take my bread. The American soldier leaves him be. Having learned enough to know at that point in the war many German soldiers were pretty much condemned to starving to death if they got wounded in no man's land. Just fuck. It fucking destroyed me. Just that one scene hammered home all the human suffering of the thing and actually made me stop learning about it entirely. Weird. After watching many documentaries, listening to Dan Carlin's incredibly visceral podcast about it, that one scene was the thing that tipped me over the edge. I watched an anime movie, I don't know the name of it, that was about a boy and his little sister whom he tried to raise as both of them were poor, maybe even homeless, I don't remember. Also, there's something about a tin of candy that I don't remember either. If anyone has any idea about the name of the movie, please let me know. The Joker. It's extremely well done and shines the light on a lot of very real issues that are happening with zero fucks given in regards to being politically correct or woke ideology. It's also a movie that stands on its own merit and creates a world that you get a sense for easily without them spoon-feeding its explanation. But damn, is it hard to watch a guy being tortured by life for what feels like 2.5 hours. Just every situation happening to him and surround him is negative. The guy can't catch a fucking break. Even his entire belief system is shattered to the point he doesn't know what's real anymore. Kinda reminds me of my own bout with depression. The Breadwinner from Cartoon Saloon. Beautifully animated film about a girl named Parvana and her family living in Kabul under the Taliban in 2001. After her father is arrested, Parvana takes to dressing as a boy to support her family and hopefully free her father. It's not the most gruesome or nihilistic of films, you don't even see anyone die, but it's very effective at communicating how emotionally exhausting the situation is. I definitely want to rewatch it. I'm still building the nerve. There's a movie called Dil Bikara, which is an Indian adaptation of the film book The Fault in Our Stars. As if the story wasn't hard to watch itself, it made it worse for the viewers, because the hero, who played the role of Augustus, died in real life in the most heart-wrenching way, just a few days before the release of the film. The eulogy speech for Augustus felt like it was for the actor himself. Really breaks your heart if you know the whole story of the actor's death. The Last Days, a documentary following 5 Hungarian Jews that were in Auschwitz during the last days of war. I have seen quite a few films, both fictionalized and documentaries, that deal with the Holocaust. But I was in absolute tears from some of the stories and images in this one in a way I have never felt before. When it was over, my son woke up from his nap and I gave him a great big bear hug. The sheer scale of the Holocaust is horrifying, but something about getting the prolonged perspective of only 5 people gave it so much weight. It is a truly fantastic film that I will never, ever watch again. Nocturnal Animals, how the whole chasing scene starts from absolutely nothing, how they get more and more uncomfortable with each passing second and eventually losing his wife and daughter right in front of his eyes, utterly powerless, nothing he can do, knowing deep down what will happen, all the while hearing their screams, crying for help. Even the first time was very hard to watch. Doesn't really count because I only read the book and never watched the movie, but Die Wolke, The Cloud, it's about 2 siblings who live in an area that was affected by an ultimate decay. They had to flee from the cloud, aka the radioactivity from the incident. The reality of the topic makes it so scary, and I cried so hard when that one person died during an accident. I never read that book ever again, and I'm not planning on changing that. The last scene where she removed her hat to show her bald head to her grandparents still gives me the chills. Come and see. On my God, I think about poor Glasha about once a week now. ETA. Yes, I know perfectly well that the girl in the church scene isn't Glasha. I also have read some commentary speculating that there was also some symbolism in the fact that Glasha is named but the other girl isn't. Doesn't fly or repeat back some of Glasha's words in response to that other girl's ordeal. I made this comment when I was falling asleep, and Glasha is the only named character I could think of at the time. Like I said, I have only seen this movie once and I really don't plan to again. Once was enough. Funny nobody mentioned this. Irreversible, French movie. The story or the plot itself wasn't really depressing for me, but it was dark and the darkness consumed your soul and makes you feel depressed. That's how it felt like for me, but it was a good movie, just that I wouldn't want to watch it again. That film about the dog, Hakeko, or Haki for short, he followed his owner to the train station every day and waited for him to come back from work. One day he died at work, and Haki waited there at the train station for the rest of his life, waiting for his owner to come back. He died there. What's even more devastating is that it's a true story. Saving Mr. Banks is a good movie, and it's not supposed to be depressing, but it gives me flashbacks to walking into the closed garage as a kid, and finding my mom trying to kill herself. Every once in a while I get drunk and forget about that scene, then watch the movie because I like Mary Poppins. Then I end up missing the last part of the movie because I'm too busy sobbing and screaming, as my husband sits next to me with an incredibly worried look on his face, trying to figure out how to make it all better for me. What Dreams May Come. Absolutely beautiful film with an incredible performance by Robin Williams. My best friend and I watched it one afternoon. Later in the evening we were robbed at gunpoint and he was killed. This is a movie I could never bring myself to watch after the fact. The movie itself deals with death and suicide, so it was already depressing enough. Highly recommend giving it a watch though. My Life as a Dog by Lasse Hallström. Swedish movie that is endearing and funny and totally brutal. The voiceover of the kid describing Ilka, the Soviet space dog, is horrifying. The Boxer with Daniel Day-Lewis and Emma Watson makes you want to put your head in the oven. Never Let Me Go made me question why I bother to breathe. Taxi Driver. I make the mistake of watching this every 10 years or so. It's the perfect movie to hang yourself to. I don't think I've encountered a movie that was so depressing it made me never want to watch it again. Sometimes when I struggle with a movie it makes me want to watch it more to analyze it to death. I do feel conflicted feelings about the movie Annihilation. I like the message but it's still a very depressing one. I feel like I identify with a certain doomed character and not any of the characters that prevail. The Anna Cabrini Chronicles. It's a terribly depressing movie about understanding why someone would commit suicide. A friend showed it to me not knowing I was quietly dealing with my own suicidal tendencies. I'll be honest, that movie damn near pushed me over the edge. Edit for autocorrect changing understanding to understudy and I didn't catch it. It is Smatry in English. Come and see. Damn, this movie is so good. It's about a kid who joins a Russian partisan group in Belarus during World War II and holy hell is it graphic and depressing. The film purposely messes with your head and is very graphic. It's a great film and shows the actual brutality of the Nazis. So good yet so traumatizing and depressing. A Beautiful Mind. I had no idea the premise of the movie before watching, so I thought it was a Cold War action war movie with smart people instead of Rambo. The plot twist threw me for an emotional loop that had me standing in the shower for an extended period of time doing absolutely nothing but thinking. Not a movie, but Goodnight Pun Pun was an amazing read but also gave me pseudo-depression for like a week after reading it. I still sometimes go back and reread chapter 135 just to remember how cripplingly sad it was, but no way could I imagine myself going all the way through Pun Pun's story again anytime soon. I watched Grave of the Fireflies in a very unconventional context. My friend and I were on road trip from Toronto to St. Louis for a conference and we were in a tour bus. We were late into the night and were going through Ghibli movies, and we finally reached Grave of the Fireflies. We knew it was going to be dark and depressing going in, but we didn't know how much it would be, so let me paint a picture for you. My friend and I were on a tour bus in the dark. Most passengers with us were asleep or shut down from the initial trip hype. The only ambience was the bus engine. It was pitch black outside the window. My friend needed to take breaks during the movie every 5 to 10 minutes or so, and after we finished it, we couldn't speak until the next morning. I recall just staring out the window in silence, struggling to process what we had just watched. Logan. The lead-up to Xavier's death, his mental state was similar to a few family members over the years. It hit too close to home for when I was a caregiver and had to go through that with them. Just watching someone fall apart. The line about the Sunseeker just broke me. It also doesn't help that Patrick Stewart plays him, who was a big part of my life growing up watching his show, and I'm well aware of his age and the inevitable creep of time and what that means. Someone invited me to watch The Notebook in the cinema. I went not knowing what it was about. I'm not saying it's the best film, but the dementia experienced by the couple was heartbreaking. I think it made me frightened to get older in case the people I knew got dementia, or I did. It stuck with me for weeks afterwards. I know it sounds weird, but Dragonheart by Jackie Chan and Sammo Hung, despite being labeled as an action movie at the height of their career, there's a lot of drama. Sammo played out of his type. He played a 30-year-old autistic adult with the mind of a child. Jackie is his older brother that is the sole caretaker by halting his whole life just to take care of him. Jackie had a pretty touching meltdown but would do absolutely anything to ensure the well-being of his brother, hence the action, while Sammo would get used and abused throughout the movie. Gus Van Sant's Elephant. It's so somber in the beginning, slow as you'd expect with Van Sant, but it keeps you engrossed. It follows a bunch of high school kids in a school setting. I don't want to spoil the end for anyone. There's all this normalcy, then nothing is normal ever again. All I will say is this is one where the monster is very human. The scariest scary movies are like that, I think, where ordinary people are the monster. Also worth mentioning is Funny Games. This movie I can only watch once in a while because it starts giving me too many disturbing thoughts. Manchester by the Sea. That movie was just a big sad fuss from straight to finish, especially when you find out why the main character played by Casey Affleck was so depressed, why he doesn't want to be in the town. After that, the movie gets even more sad as the interaction between him, his family and of course his ex-wife, played by the amazing Michelle Williams, you have an understanding why everyone is acting that way around him. Someone else in this thread mentioned Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams. That's definitely one for me. What Dreams May Come also with Robin Williams, and Cuba Gooding Jr., and Annabella Sora, is one that I have wanted to rewatch. But in 23 years I can't work up the guts to cry like that again. The Girl Next Door. No, not the romantic one, the 2007 horror movie one. This one, the movie perfectly portrays the story. It's a good movie, but the subject matter is so depressing, especially when you know that this sort of thing really happened. What a waste of a human life, goes away to be depressed. I haven't watched Requiem for a Dream since I first watched it. Kind of afraid to watch Schindler's List. Kids is devastating but worth showing others. Old Boy is another one of those films I haven't revisited since the remake. Saving Private Ryan is a movie I will always come back to because the horror of war should be reminded. I don't know if I will ever watch Room again. I don't know if there is a correct answer to this question. 32-year-old film student. If that has any relevancy, I am gonna show my GF Requiem because it's important to see IMO. My answer might be Room. I believe film is art and should be shared despite pain. At the same time, trauma is immeasurable and subjective. I haven't seen Monster but I'll bet that's a tough movie. Precious. I don't know about good. It was just so intense it's really hard for me to process it on the level of like, the quality of the filmmaking, but certainly it scarred me and left an impression that has bolstered my empathy a lot and reminds me of an important part of how I go through life. That being, you never know what people are going through. I walked out of the theater knowing I would never ever watch that movie again, but I wouldn't forget it either. The Room. When Johnny succumbs to grief after being dishonored by his future wife and his best friend Mark, plus he lost that promotion and his future wife's mom definitely gets breast cancer. Danny with his drug problem became too much even for tossing a football to fix. He was torn apart. R.I.P. Johnny. Any of the director Steve McQueen's first 3 films, Hunger, Shame and 12 Years a Slave, all 3 are 5-star films that I absolutely do not want to put myself through the pain of watching again. Widows is a damn parade at Disneyland compared to those 3, and his Small Axe series for the BBC lands somewhere between the 2, depending on which one you're watching. There's something so particular about Schindler's List. I have watched many times. But only once saw it fully. I have repeated the beginning, just until we get to Oscar's realization. The moment he breaks, I break as well. The phrase, the ring, the meaning behind it is so much. Unlike The Pianist, which is just an endless spiral of sadness and abyss, Schindler's List ends on a hopeful note, but I still can't get over the ring scene, is too heartbreaking. Hooky. A Dog's Tale / Hakeko, A Dog's Story. The story is so amazing with its good use of character development with a heartbreak ending, and to top it all off, I tease about a dog. I can't remember the entirety of the movie anymore because I believe I was in the 5th grade? 4th grade? When I last watched it. I'm on 12th grade now, but the 3 times I watched the movie, I couldn't stop crying even at parts of the movie that aren't even sad. It's just me knowing the emotional ending, so whenever I remember that movie, I just couldn't bring myself to watch it again even if I wanted to. I still quite remember the last shot of Akiko having his last rest on that spot on which he was waiting. I could be wrong about it being the last shot, like I said, it's been a long time.